Today, we are opening the sources on a life that, for well over 50 years, was a fundamental part of American entertainment and political conversation.
You are.
We're here to examine the immense and multifaceted career of Robert Norman Reiner and the profoundly tragic circumstances that concluded his life and the life of his wife, Michelle Singer Reiner, just a few days ago on December 14th, 2025.
This is a discussion that's really defined by contrast, isn't it?
How so?
Well, you have these decades of monumental public achievement set against a sudden and just intensely private tragedy.
Right.
And the sensitivity around the facts that have emerged, especially in the immediate aftermath, it requires us to proceed very carefully.
Of course.
Our purpose here is just to move methodically through the documents we have. The ones detailing his influential career as a performer, as a director, his extensive history of activism, and of course the verifiable reports around the shocking events of his final days.
We're here to systematically explore the facts presented in these sources. And when you look at the breadth of his work, it's staggering. We're talking about a figure who was, the liberal conscience of the most watched TV show of the 70s, who then directs a series of absolute classics across almost every genre you can imagine, and then spends decades as a major political advocate.
But as you said, the magnitude of that public life, it now contrasts so violently with the gravity of what's dominating the narrative now.
The sudden and profoundly tragic loss of both Rob Reiner at 78 and his wife, Michelle, at 70.
So we have to begin by addressing that reality. We have to approach this first section with solemnity and a focus solely on the verified facts, as reported by the authorities and media in the source material.
Okay, let's unpack this. This very difficult sequence of events, keeping strictly to the official timeline presented in the sources. The incident occurred at their home in the Brentwood neighborhood of Los Angeles.
That's right.
The initial reports indicate that Rob Reiner and Michelle Singer were found deceased on Sunday, December 14th, 2025.
That's the critical starting point. The Los Angeles Fire Department, they were the first to respond.
And it was for a medical aid call initially?
Yes. The call was logged at approximately 3:38 p.m. Pacific Standard Time that Sunday afternoon. But, the scene, it changed dramatically once authorities were on site.
And the details that emerged almost immediately were, quite simply, horrific.
They were.
Authorities confirmed that both Robert Reiner and Michelle Singer Reiner had sustained fatal stab wounds.
And that confirmation, the swift understanding of the violent nature of their passing, that immediately required the involvement of the Los Angeles Police Department's Robbery Homicide Division.
Which formally opened a homicide investigation right then and there.
Yes. And the sources confirmed the couple's bodies were discovered by their daughter, Romy.
That's just unimaginable.
It is. And while the official cause and manner of death has to technically wait for the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner's final report.
Of course.
The LAPD's immediate actions opening a homicide case, it really underscores the violence that was involved.
What's remarkable and terribly difficult to process is just the speed with which the investigation developed.
It was incredibly fast.
Within 24 hours of the discovery, on Monday, December 15th, the LAPD announced a major development.
Yes, the reports are very clear on this. The LAPD announced the arrest and charging of the Reiner's son, Nick Reiner, with murder.
This information comes directly from official police statements.
It does. The source material further details that Nick Reiner is being held without bail and that the case was scheduled for formal presentation to the Los Angeles County District Attorney on December 16th.
It's also worth noting the sources provided a small but intensely important piece of context, something about the hours immediately leading up to that Sunday afternoon.
Yes, it suggests the tension between the father and son was acute just before the discovery.
What did it say specifically?
Authorities specifically cited a reported argument between Rob Reiner and Nick Reiner. This confrontation took place at a Christmas party.
A Christmas party?
Hosted by Conan O'Brien on Saturday evening.
So that means the argument occurred just hours before the bodies of Rob and Michelle were found the following afternoon.
Exactly. It provides a tragic glimpse into the immediate timeline being examined by the official investigation.
Before we delve into the decades of Rob Reiner's career, we absolutely have to pause and acknowledge Michelle Singer Reiner.
We must.
While her life is now, tragically linked to this event and often interwoven with Rob's career, she was a significant figure in her own right.
She was, particularly as a photographer and in their shared advocacy work.
The sources say she was a successful photographer.
Very. And their relationship is tied directly to one of Rob Reiner's most celebrated films. They met while he was directing When Harry Met Sally in the late 1980s.
And they married in 1989.
Yes. She was a full partner in his life, often sharing the stage with him in their later political and charitable work.
Together they had 3 children, 2 sons, Jake and Nick, and a daughter, Romy.
And it's also important to mention that Rob Reiner adopted his first wife, Penny Marshall's daughter, Tracy Reiner, from Marshall's previous marriage. So his immediate family included 4 children.
And this family context is deeply relevant, isn't it? Particularly given some of their previous public struggles.
It's very relevant. The sources note that Rob directed a film in 2015, a semi-autobiographical film called Being Charlie.
Right, and the screenplay.
The screenplay for that film was co-written by his son, Nick.
The same son now charged.
Yes. And the film was based, quite explicitly, on Nick's long struggle with drug addiction.
So the family had publicly navigated immense tension and struggle before.
They had. And that history now adds a layer of heartbreaking, just difficult context to this final tragedy.
The fact that they used their professional work to try and process deep personal pain, it's a painful reminder of the complexity of public versus private life.
It is.
Let's shift now, though, to the monumental achievements that define the life of Robert Norman Reiner up until that devastating conclusion, starting right at the very beginning.
Robert Norman Reiner was born on March 6, 1947, in the Bronx, New York City, into a Jewish family.
And his parentage is really the key starting point here.
It's everything. He was the son of Estelle Reiner, an actress and singer, and Carl Reiner,
a comedic giant, known for the Dick Van Dyke Show, the 2,000-year-old man routine with Mel Brooks.
I mean, growing up in that environment means he was literally raised in the center of American comedy's golden age.
He grew up in New Rochelle, New York, and then the family moved. He graduated from Beverly Hills High School in 1964 before going to the UCLA Film School.
It was clearly a family just immersed in the arts. His siblings, a poet, Annie Reiner, and a painter, Lucas Reiner, they also followed artistic paths.
And while his legacy is so defined by directing, his entry into the business was purely as a performer and a writer.
Purely. He trained at the Bucks County Playhouse in Pennsylvania in the early 60s, taking on those usual small acting roles in iconic 60s shows.
Like Batman and the Beverly Hillbillies.
Right, and those roles established his acting bona fides, but the pivotal turn really came behind the scenes.
Exactly. The transition to becoming a true creative force started when he was hired as a writer for the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour between 68 and 69.
And here's where it gets really interesting.
His writing partner.
His writing partner during that time was a relatively unknown comedian named Steve Martin.
That's a phenomenal connection point.
It is. And working on the Smothers Brothers was foundational. That show was so politically provocative, constantly battling network censors, and really pushing the boundaries of what was acceptable on primetime television.
So that boundary-pushing environment perfectly prepared him for the next phase of his career.
It did.
Which was, of course, the iconic role that defined him for a generation, and maybe the one he spent the next 50 years trying to prove he was more than.
Winkle, Meathead, Stivic.
All in the Family. It was more than just a popular show. It was a cultural phenomenon, a social barometer.
Absolutely. Running from 1971 to 1979, he played the liberal, idealistic, and perpetually arguing son-in-law to Carol O'Connor's Archie Bunker.
And the genius of the show was that conflict. It used their arguments to explore these seismic political and social fault lines of the 1970s.
Race, class, the Vietnam War. All of it was on the table.
And the sources confirmed just how dominant the show was. It wasn't just highly rated.
No, it was the single most watched television program in the United States for 5 consecutive seasons.
Yeah.
From 1971 to 1976.
That level of cultural saturation is just almost unimaginable today.
In our fractured media landscape, yes. His performance earned him widespread acclaim. 2 Primetime Emmy Awards for Outstanding Supporting Actor in a Comedy Series.
Plus 3 additional Emmy nominations and 5 Golden Globe nominations.
This role was the rocket ship that launched his career, but it did come with some very memorable baggage.
The nickname. The famous or infamous moniker Meathead, a term of both endearment and derision that Archie Bunker was always tossing at him.
And it became a permanent fixture of his public identity.
It stuck so fiercely, didn't it?
So fiercely that the sources record Reiner reflecting on it later in his life. He said, "I could win the Nobel Prize," and they'd write, "Meathead wins the Nobel Prize."
Wow.
And the significance of that nickname isn't just that it was catchy. It's that Reiner became the visual and vocal representation of young, counterculture liberalism for millions of Americans watching every week.
So even after he left the series, that character remained inextricably tied to his identity.
For decades.
The next stage of his career, beginning in the early 1980s, is arguably where his true genius lay. This remarkable pivot from being a defining character actor
To becoming an acclaimed, genre-spanning director and the co-founder of a major production powerhouse.
It's hard to imagine the actor who defined television liberalism shifting gears so fundamentally.
But the sources show his true aptitude was behind the camera. His directorial debut in 1984, the heavy metal mockumentary This Is Spinal Tap, it didn't just announce his arrival, it changed the landscape of comedy filmmaking.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me. The film's significance is both artistic and technical. It didn't just popularize the mockumentary.
It codified it. It wrote the rules.
That's the crucial point. Before Spinal Tap, films rarely used this style, and certainly not with this level of verisimilitude.
Exactly. The sources highlight that the film was revolutionary in its extensive use of improvisation. The cast essentially developed characters and scenarios on the fly, making the entire film feel unnervingly real.
Like a genuine documentary gone wrong.
Yes. And the genius of that approach meant that many audience members, when it was first released, they genuinely believed the band Spinal Tap was real.
They thought it was a serious profile.
They did. This blurring of lines parody with deep realism, it established the framework for every mockumentary that followed, from Waiting for Guffman to The Office.
And it's rightly preserved in the National Film Registry.
As it should be. That success gave him immediate cachet, and he used it to embark on what critics frequently cite as one of the greatest directorial streaks in Hollywood history.
And he'd do it by achieving massive success across wildly different genres, which is incredibly rare for any director.
It is. That streak began immediately after Spinal Tap with The Sure Thing in 1985, a college road trip comedy.
And then came Stand By Me in 1986.
Which is perhaps the defining coming-of-age drama of the late 80s.
A huge risk, adapting Stephen King but not horror.
A significant risk. It was this nostalgic, sensitive look at childhood trauma and friendship. And Reiner managed to pull these deeply affecting performances from a very young cast.
It showed he could direct nuanced drama immediately after a groundbreaking comedy.
And then we get The Princess Bride in 1987.
A comedic fantasy, a fairy tale that just defied traditional categorization.
The source material credits this film with having numerous phrases, as you wish, inconceivable, enter the regular English lexicon.
Which just shows its profound cultural stickiness. It's a timeless classic.
And following that, in 1989, we get When Harry Met Sally.
This film is absolutely crucial for the romantic comedy genre.
It is. Critics lauded it for shifting the narrative focus, for providing genuine, equally balanced perspectives from both the male and the female lead.
It elevated the entire genre. It asked serious questions about friendship and sex in a way that still feels innovative today.
It's consistently ranked among the best romantic comedies of all time.
It's hard to maintain that level of success across such diverse, lighthearted genres, but then Reiner shifts dramatically again in 1990.
He tackles intense suspense and drama with Misery.
Another Stephen King adaptation.
And he executed it perfectly. Kathy Bates, playing the terrifying Annie Wilkes, won the Academy Award for Best Actress for that role.
Winning an Oscar for an actor under a director's guidance is one of the highest compliments a filmmaker can receive.
It confirms his mastery over performance, even in a genre entirely new to him.
And then came his commercial peak. The military courtroom drama A Few Good Men in 1992. This was his biggest blockbuster success.
A Few Good Men proved Reiner could handle big budgets. Major stars like Tom Cruise and Jack Nicholson, and complex, taut courtroom drama.
It was a massive critical and commercial hit. It was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Picture.
The sheer consistency of quality and that willingness to move between fantasy, comedy, and high-stakes drama, it marks this 7-film streak as truly legendary.
And that remarkable run continued into the mid-90s with the political romance The American President in 95.
And then the powerful courtroom drama Ghosts of Mississippi in 1996, which earned James Woods a Best Supporting Actor nomination.
But Reiner's influence goes far beyond just his own directing credits, doesn't it?
It does. He institutionalized his success through his production company, Castle Rock Entertainment, which he co-founded.
And he directed many of these successes through that company.
Yes, but Castle Rock also became a platform for other genre-defining content.
This is a huge point that often gets overlooked. Castle Rock's broader influence is instrumental in understanding modern entertainment.
It was the company that backed and distributed Seinfeld.
Think about that synergy. The same company that gave us the whimsical humor of The Princess Bride also championed Seinfeld.
A show that rejected traditional sitcom structures, focusing on the minutiae of daily life, and it reshaped network television comedy for decades.
And on the film side, Castle Rock was responsible for producing two of the most enduring and critically beloved dramas of the era.
The Shawshank Redemption and The Green Mile.
The sheer variety from cynical comedy to profound cinematic drama, all under one banner, it's a testament to the diverse, quality-focused culture Reiner fostered at Castle Rock.
And he continued to work across genres throughout the 2000s and 2010s. He directed The Bucket List in 2007.
Which the sources note actually popularized the term bucket list itself.
Right. Once again, he had this uncanny ability to inject cultural concepts right into the mainstream.
He also embraced his acting roots, proving his versatility in supporting roles.
He was in Sleepless in Seattle, Bullets Over Broadway, and he took that prominent role in Martin Scorsese's 2013 film The Wolf of Wall Street.
Playing Max Belfort, Jordan Belfort's father.
And, fittingly, his career came full circle in his final year. His last film, Spinal Tap 2, The End Continues, was released in 2025.
Just 3 months before his passing.
And he reprised his role as the faux documentarian Marty DeBurgi. He was still creating, still engaging, right up until the very end.
Moving now from his creative peaks to his equally prominent public career, Rob Reiner established himself as a relentless liberal activist.
This became a defining characteristic of his later life, and it's critical to understand the specific causes he championed and the political friction he often faced because of it.
His activism wasn't general, it was intensely focused, particularly on early childhood development.
And often in very close partnership with his wife, Michelle Singer Reiner, which just shows the depth of their shared commitment.
The sources detail that Reiner and Singer co-founded the I Am Your Child Foundation back in 1997.
And following that, in 2004, they established Parents Action for Children, which was a nonprofit designed to raise public awareness about the crucial importance of a child's early developmental years.
Their work was both charitable and deeply legislative.
They advanced public policy through parental education. They even created celebrity-hosted educational videos. But Reiner's greatest and most successful legislative achievement came in California with Proposition 10 in 1998.
He chaired the campaign for Prop 10, which was known as the California Children and Families Initiative. So what made this initiative so politically significant beyond just its goal?
The funding mechanism was the key. Proposition 10 created First 5 California, an organization that funds early childhood development services across the state.
With a very specific and politically charged source of revenue.
Exactly. A 50-cent per pack tax on tobacco products. This unique, dedicated funding stream generated hundreds of millions of dollars a year, and it allowed First 5 to become this massive force in state policy.
And Reiner served as the organization's first chairman from 1999 to 2006.
He did.
So he was effectively serving as a major political power broker within the state, controlling the direction of a huge public fund.
And that deep involvement inevitably led to intense scrutiny and controversy, especially around campaign finance and potential conflicts of interest.
That scrutiny really culminated around 2006, didn't it?
Yes. When Reiner was actively campaigning for Proposition 82, which was a subsequent ballot measure aimed at funding universal public free schools.
And he was doing that while still serving as the chairman of the First 5 Commission.
Right. And the opposition argued he was inappropriately using the platform and the resources of First 5 to advocate for this new legislation. That pressure ultimately led to his resignation from the commission on March 29, 2006.
So what did the official audit reveal about the commission's financial practices under his leadership during that period?
Well, it was an extensive audit. And on one hand, it provided clear support. It cleared the commission of violating state law regarding public advertising campaigns. They had the legal authority to run campaigns promoting the importance of preschool. However, and this is the critical distinction, the auditor also reported that the commission had awarded more than $77 million in media contracts, a staggering sum, without adequately reviewing the cost-effectiveness of those expenditures.
So while they were clear of legal wrongdoing in what they were advertising, the audit found serious issues with how they were spending public money. A lack of financial diligence on huge contracts.
It's a complex legacy, isn't it? Immense positive achievement paired with procedural controversy.
And despite all that high-profile effort, Proposition 82, the measure Reiner championed, ultimately failed to win approval from California voters.
It did. It really showcases how politically challenging these comprehensive social programs can be, even with the backing of a major celebrity figure like Reiner.
His national activism was equally dedicated, spanning multiple fronts. He was a co-founder of the American Foundation for Equal Rights,
Which played a foundational role in challenging California's Proposition 8, the ballot measure that sought to ban same-sex marriage in the state.
He was also successful in environmental causes, leading efforts to preserve California's Amundsen Ranch.
He successfully prevented commercial real estate development there and secured its designation as a state park and wildlife refuge. And politically, he was a staunch and consistent supporter of Democratic candidates.
Actively campaigning and providing financial support for figures like Al Gore, Howard Dean, Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden.
Right.
In his later years, though, his political focus sharpened and really crystallized almost entirely around the relationship between Russia and the former Trump administration.
That's absolutely right. This became arguably his most visible and aggressive area of public engagement.
So what did that look like?
In September 2017, Reiner and David Frum co-launched the committee to investigate Russia. The launch was a high-profile event. It was accompanied by a video narrated by Morgan Freeman.
And that video contained an extremely strong assertion regarding Russian interference.
It did, stating emphatically, "We are at war."
And he was an intensely visible and vocal critic of Donald Trump, often using very charged language in his public criticism, which is well documented in the source material.
The sources cite numerous examples. He publicly called Trump racist, sexist, anti-gay, and anti-Semitic. This wasn't just veiled criticism. It was direct and highly confrontational.
And his anti-Trump political sentiment was so pronounced that it extended into his professional aspirations.
It did. He wasn't just commenting on the relationship between Trump and Vladimir Putin. He announced plans to turn it into a television project.
A television project.
In June 2021, Reiner announced he was developing a project titled The Spy and the Asset, specifically focused on that relationship. He said the series would explore the leaders' childhoods and trace their lives right up to the point of their intersection.
Which just shows the depth of his commitment to using his platform, even his creative platform, to pursue this specific political narrative.
And it is compelling to note that his intensity did not wane. One of his final recorded public statements, just months before his death, shows this political engagement persisted right up to the very end.
What was that?
It was an interview in September 2025 with CNN. He spoke out against the political climate and criticized the Federal Communications Commission regarding the suspension of Jimmy Kimmel Live.
And during that interview, he made a comment that, viewed in retrospect now, carries a chilling, almost prescient significance.
He did. He said, "It may be the last time you ever see me," in reference to the political environment and the show's suspension.
As we transition into the final analysis of his public life, let's synthesize his enduring cultural contributions and examine the immediate public response to his death, and that includes the extraordinary and highly controversial political fallout that followed.
The immediate reaction from colleagues and political leaders was universally characterized by shock, grief, and profound sympathy for the victims.
Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass called the deaths a devastating loss for our city and our country.
She praised both his creative work and his tireless advocacy for social justice.
And California Governor Gavin Newsom also issued a heartfelt tribute, reflecting on Reiner's boundless empathy and his extensive work on behalf of children and civil rights.
The response from the arts community was deeply personal. SAG-AFTRA trade president Sean Astin honored Reiner as one of the most significant figures in the history of film and television. Ben Stiller called the passing a huge loss.
But what stands out is the response from comedian Eric Idle.
Yes, who had collaborated with Reiner. Idle described him as a lovely man and mentioned that he had spoken to Reiner just hours before the discovery of his body. It just underscores the suddenness of it all.
For those he directed early in their careers, the loss felt almost familial.
Actor Jerry O'Connell, who starred in Stand By Me as a child, stated Reiner's death felt like a parent has passed. He deeply credited Reiner with everything in his life, his children, his wife, his success. That level of impact is rare.
It really is.
Even former high-profile political figures offered deep sympathy and praise. Former President Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton said they were heartbroken by the tragic deaths of our friends Rob and Michelle Reiner.
They praised them as good, generous people who made everyone who knew them better through their active citizenship in defense of inclusive democracy.
Former President Barack Obama noted Reiner's deep belief in the goodness of people, and former Vice President Kamala Harris described the couple as Dear friends.
But here is where the public narrative takes a severe and controversial turn, moving from widespread grief to political commentary about the circumstances of his passing.
And we must report these facts clearly and impartially, as they are documented in the source material.
This is absolutely essential. President Donald Trump weighed in on the tragedy via his social media platform, Truth Social.
His post stated that a very sad thing happened, but then it alleged that Reiner and his wife reportedly died due to the anger he caused others with Trump derangement syndrome.
The sources confirmed the inflammatory nature of this post was immediately magnified. They note a significant detail.
The official White House Rapid Response account, on X, formerly Twitter, reposted Trump's original Truth Social message.
And that action gave an individual political opinion the veneer of official White House commentary.
Yes, the reaction to the post was immediate and overwhelmingly negative, drawing sharp condemnation from media outlets and, crucially, from both the left and the right of the political spectrum. This was not solely a partisan criticism.
That's a key distinction. The sources mention that Republican critics included both opponents of Trump and some of his allies,
Such as Marjorie Taylor Greene and House Speaker Mike Johnson, with Johnson publicly advocating for political figures to appeal to our better angels in response to the tragedy.
And when asked about his post later that day during a public event,
President Trump doubled down on his comments. He stated Reiner was very bad for our country and a deranged person, specifically accusing him of being one of the people behind the Russia hoax.
and the bipartisan condemnation just highlighted the extent to which the president's remarks departed from the typical message of consolation offered after the death of a prominent public figure.
He did.
Setting aside that political friction, let's solidify Rob Reiner's lasting cultural legacy, which is perhaps best summarized by the official preservation of his most influential work.
His legacy is undeniably monumental. It's built upon his achievements across acting, directing, and producing. And his contributions are officially recognized by the National Film Registry,
which has selected 3 of his films for preservation for their cultural, historical, and aesthetic merit.
And those 3 films speak volumes about his range. You have This Is Spinal Tap, which defined an entire comedic genre.
The Princess Bride, the fantasy classic that gifted us enduring language.
And When He Met Sally, the romantic comedy benchmark.
That recognition confirms the depth and breadth of his impact.
It does. And he is widely cited by critics as having one of the greatest directing streaks in Hollywood history with his first 7 films. He mastered vastly complex and diverse genres: mockumentary, coming-of-age, fantasy, rom-com, military drama.
All with critical and commercial success. Few filmmakers successfully execute such diverse material at such a high caliber.
Very few. And then we return to Castle Rock, which cements his executive and creative influence.
Right. Through that company, he was instrumental in shaping modern television comedy with Seinfeld.
And delivering enduring cinematic classics that touch on fundamental aspects of the human condition, like The Shawshank Redemption and The Green Mile.
He also received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in 1999 and the prestigious Chaplin Award in 2014.
So in synthesizing his life, we are left with this fascinating and complex dual identity.
On one hand, he was a truly beloved cultural figure who provided enduring entertainment that continues to resonate across multiple generations, weaving dialogue and characters into the very fabric of American culture.
And on the other, he was a deeply passionate, sometimes controversial, and relentless political activist.
He dedicated decades to leveraging his fame for significant social causes, from championing early childhood development with First 5 California and Prop 10 to fighting for marriage equality, and his highly visible, intense late-career focus on political resistance.
It is the brutal juxtaposition of these 2 immense realities that makes his end so profoundly difficult to grasp.
A public life defined by decades of achievement, fame, and highly visible political battles.
Culminating in a deeply private, internal familial horror. Despite the extensive detail known about his career and his political engagement, the final narrative of his life was abruptly and tragically rewritten by circumstances that were intensely personal and domestic.
It certainly raises an important reflection for anyone interested in the nature of public life and legacy.
It does.
Even for a figure as exhaustively documented and widely known as Rob Reiner, who engaged in the highest levels of public discourse and political activity. The final scene of his life was set in the most intimate, tragic family context, shared also with his wife, Michelle Singer Reiner.
We're left to consider the immense challenge of navigating decades of high-level fame, intense political engagement, and a profound commitment to social change, all alongside the complexities and deep vulnerabilities of private familial dynamics.
The source material reminds us that even monumental public achievement offers no insulation from the most painful private reality.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Thank you for joining this exploration of the sources detailing the life and tragic passing of Robert Norman Reiner and Michelle Singer Reiner. We hope this discussion has provided a factual and comprehensive view of the information presented in the reports. Thanks for listening.